Domestic violence is a crime that has occurred with greater frequency, it seems, these past several years than at any time in our history. Although it's been around forever, it just now has come out of the closet and people are discussing it on a more frequent basis and dealing with it. We'll be talking about domestic violence next, right here on Due Process.
Major funding for Due Process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
Someday, cars will use infrared to monitor the driver's face and alert them when they're not paying attention to the road ahead. The first ever HS Hybrid from Lexus.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I'm Henry Baskin, and this is Due Process. We're going to talk about domestic violence again and again and again because it's a crime that doesn't seem to abate at all, despite the efforts of two fabulous people who are here with us today. On my left is the Honorable Lisa Gorcyca. Lisa, welcome to Due Process. Have you been on before?
I have.
You have been on.
Thank you for having me again.
But before you became a judge, for a long time, you were in charge of the personal protection order or the domestic violence section.
Yes.
Of the prosecutor's office, right?
I was.
And how long did you serve there?
As an assistant prosecutor, over 16 years, but as the chief of the unit, about 10 years.
So you had 10 years, we used to talk about that. You had 10 years of experience and you were just seeing all kinds of cases that never seemed to resolve themselves in terms of the degree to which people endured this violence. I mean, you could talk to them all you want and they still went back to it. And I know we do help some people, but I see people in court now who are saying, oh yes, Judge, please release him, he's okay. And I shake my head no, because I know that there's going to be recidivism. And you see it, don't you?
As a prosecutor, I saw it every day.
Okay. And Beth Morrison from Haven. Welcome to Due Process. Beth, you're the CEO of Haven. Tell us what Haven actually is.
Haven is Oakland County Center for the Prevention and Treatment of Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. We really focus in on those two particular crimes and issues, domestic violence and sexual assault, really kind of from A to Z, from an anonymous crisis line to folks who need shelter to people who need counseling, as well as working with batterers.
Yeah, the shelter part of it, tell us about that.
We have a 45-bed shelter here in Oakland County. Where individuals who need immediate safety can come to us and find that safety.
How long can they stay?
Most individuals most families stay for roughly about 30 days, some less than that obviously and some more than that. On some occasions, some people will stay 3 months or so.
What I noticed in Detroit, I went to a shelter, they sort of, I think they blindfolded us or something. They didn't want us to know where it was. It was sponsored by the Detroit Lions in part. No, the Detroit Pistons, I think. But in any event, I was shocked to see not only women there, but their adult children who were in the shelter with them.
Absolutely. We are able to work with the entire family.
But they were staying there. They were living there.
Yes. Sometimes maybe an adult child would come. For most of the families that we serve, it's from maybe a newborn baby through their teenage years. But if there was an adult child who was living with them in the home and they're in danger as well, then we would try to accommodate that family that maybe has older children.
Judge Gorcyca, let me ask you this. You spent 10 years with the prosecutor's office, but do these crimes rise to the level of felonies? Or are they misdemeanors, or what are they?
They're all types. They range from a simple domestic violence, which is a 93-day misdemeanor, all the way up to murder. So there's domestic violence 1, domestic violence 2, which is a 1-year offense.
Oh, okay.
Domestic violence 3 is a 2-year offense, and that's a felony. Then there's felonious assaults, when you assault someone with a weapon. There's assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. There's rapes, there's home invasions, there's attempted murder.
It's all part of...
all types.
Do you make reference or referrals to Haven?
As a judge, when it's appropriate, I do recommend the Haven Batterer program. It's a 40, I'm sure Beth could talk about that better than I could, but it's a 40-week program that the batterers have to attend.
What, the batterers, and do you have any other programs for batterers? Because I heard of one called Step Forward. I'm not sure what that was, some new program.
I have heard of Step Forward. There's a couple of programs, but I know from working in the domestic violence program that it's important that if a batterer is going to be successful, they have to go to a really good program that is going to help them and change them so they don't come back into the system. And having dealt with Haven for all those years, I know that that's a fabulous program.
What is this anger management? I hear judge sentencing someone to anger management. Go manage your anger. I mean, yeah. I don't know how you do that, but I guess they figured it out.
Yeah. Batterers don't have a problem managing their anger. I mean, actually, they're pretty good at managing their anger.
Right.
You know, read about a homicide that happens in the paper. Everybody around that person is surprised. Oh, he was the nicest guy. Oh, I would have never thought he would have done something like this. So they manage their anger well.
They're not assaulting their boss or their teachers. They're limiting it to someone they have the control and power over. They're not going to lose their job because of it. They're not going to be kicked out of the military because of it. So they're doing it for a specific reason.
I figure they could do it and get away with it because you know that cycle that you draw this circle where they batter you and then they apologize, and as you keep going around in the circle, they court you and everything is fine, and the next thing you know they batter you again. During that period of time on that circle, they're managing their anger.
Well, absolutely. It really isn't an anger management problem. What it is the judge mentioned, it's about power and control. And that's also a belief system, that there's a belief in the batterer that it is my right to have power and control over this individual, and I can do whatever I need to do to be able to achieve that power and control and then to maintain that power and control. So if I need to withhold money, if I need to belittle, if I need to be physically abusive, if I need to be verbally abusive, that's what I can do. But it's my right to be able to do that within this relationship.
Sure.
So it's a belief system. So it really doesn't have anything to do with anger.
Okay. Well, Judge, when you were a prosecutor and you saw these women say to you, hey, he's really a good guy and I need him because the kids need him, did you try and talk these people out of it before sentencing so that instead of a guy going to jail for 93 days, he went back home?
My goal when I was a prosecutor was always safety first.
Okay.
So I wanted the victim to obviously be safe. I didn't want anything that I did make them be unsafe in their home. So I was really worried about that. And the prosecutor's office has a victim advocate, as well as Haven has a lot of advocates that would come to the court and would assist with those areas. So I would always, we would provide books on the subject matter, and ultimately it's their decision. And quite frankly, the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence is when they're actually leaving the batterer.
When they're leaving.
When they're leaving. And when I first heard that statistic as a young prosecutor, I quite frankly didn't really believe it. And then growing up in the prosecutor's office and all the murder cases that I prosecuted and keeping track of all the domestic violence in Oakland County for all those years, almost all of them were when the victim either was breaking up with the batterer, divorcing the batterer, or separating the batterer. That's how they responded with murder. So it's a horrible choice to have to make: stay and be beaten, or leave and be murdered.
Wow. And you've seen that, haven't you?
Over and over and over again.
Really? Was it predictable? Could you tell?
No. I mean, you never, like, I wish we had a glass. I wish at the time we would know, obviously, then we could prevent it. But it was happening. I mean, obviously murders aren't that rampant in Oakland County in domestic violence.
No, I know.
But domestic violence is, and it's going on. It goes on in my neighborhood, like literally, like I know where it's happening, and it goes on in nicer neighborhoods. It goes on not so nice neighborhoods.
You're talking about physical. Do you ever bring actions for the verbal abuse, and can you ever do that, or is that just a stalking kind of thing?
Is at the prosecutor's office, I obviously can't speak for them now, but I never did just a verbal case, but that would, we could do, obviously we did stalking, when you say you're going to do those things and you continue to frighten and harass and intimidate, yes.
There have been cases where there has been a lot of battering tactics used except for the physical violence, that have been that have gone to court and gone through the process and had successful prosecution. But typically it's not a case where it's a he said, she said that there was violence, but there might have been threatening emails and you know, a tracker of witnesses who saw the abuse, and being able to kind of put the whole picture together. And there have been some cases to be able to go forward with prosecution, and some that have been successful. But obviously, physical is more often what you're going to see coming forward in a prosecution type of a setting.
Who supports Haven? Does the county support Haven?
Financially, who supports Haven? We've received a wide range of support. Our biggest supporter is through the federal government, through several different, the Office of Violence Against Women and the Victim of Crime funding that we receive from the federal government. But we do receive some support through the county commissioners for our forensic exam program. As well as corporate support, individual donors who support us.
Because I was going to ask the judge what she would do without Haven. Where would you send these people that called?
Well, I don't send as the judge victims anywhere.
No, I mean when you were a prosecutor.
Oh, when I was a prosecutor. Maybe somebody would step up to the plate. I don't know. Like I don't know.
I mean, without Haven, we'd be in trouble in Oakland County. I mean, how many shelters are there in Oakland County?
Well, there's only the one. We're the only domestic violence specific shelter in Oakland County. There are several homeless shelters, but we're the only one that is specifically just for domestic violence.
One of the things that surprised me when we were going through the legislation years ago, we had public meetings, and people would tell us about havens they had on college campuses. Michigan State, Oakland U, U of M. These are places where people who were in relationships could go to escape. I'm not sure what happened after that, because here you are in the same geographic area, and at some point you have to leave that haven and get out into the public. And there was no charges were brought and things such as that. Even damage to property is prohibited. And I don't know if you know. Property, mailboxes blown up, garages destroyed in an effort to intimidate these victims. You think that domestic violence has been around forever?
Oh, I believe it has, because again, it's that belief system, that there is a belief in somebody who's abusive that it is their right to be abusive, that they can be in control of that. So as long as we have inequities in our society, male privilege, sexism, all of those pieces play a big part into why domestic violence happens.
Did you ever hear this one? I heard a guy say, it's okay, you can beat your wife once. It's okay to hit her once. I said, it is? And he said, yeah. I said, yeah, are you serious? He said, yeah. I mean, this is ownership, this is control, this is like a cultural thing almost. Because I said to him, is that true in your culture? He said, yeah. I said, well, now we look at, pictures from the Middle East and say, oh, wow, what's going on with women there? I mean, if you opened a shelter in the Middle East, you could have, 8,000 people a day.
Well, back to, how long this exists is back in British rule, where the phrase, the rule of thumb was, where that saying came for, that we use now in a lot of different things, was that you could beat your wife as long as the rod was no longer than, or no wider or thicker than your thumb. That's where that saying came from, and that was British law.
Really?
That if you beat her with something larger than that, then you had done something wrong. But if it was no bigger than your thumb, the rule of thumb, then that was okay to be able to do that.
That was the rule of thumb?
That was the rule of thumb.
I didn't know that. Oh, yes. Well.
So it's existed for centuries.
We have one of your survivors with us, Julie Bingham, and she wants to join us. And Julie, are you with us by remote?
I am, thank you.
Okay. You did experience domestic violence, did you not?
Yes, I did. In both the physical and sexual form, yes.
How long did this go on?
I would say it's hard saying, because it goes through the verbal and obviously the emotional. So I would have to say start to finish, 2, maybe 3 years almost, 2.5 years.
Were you married to this person?
No, we were engaged.
You were
and I had,
engaged.
pardon me?
You were engaged?
Yes, we were.
Did anyone know about the abuse except you and the abuser?
No. I mean, there were people that eventually throughout the process that I had contacted. But other than that, like, I mean, this was closer towards the end. But no, while the abuse is occurring, that was something that I shared with nobody.
Did you make excuses for the abuse?
All the time. You get really good at covering bruises and making up reasons for.
Can I ask you, it's just a rhetorical question, but you can answer it. Why did you let yourself be abused?
I don't think it's a matter of choice. To tell you the truth, I didn't really realize that he was an abuser to begin with. It's very what I call they go through a grooming process. While I was in this, I didn't know this, but as getting educated, once I left the relationship, you don't choose to be abused. They are very strategic as to what they're doing. They use the emotional control and the name calling and this type of thing to like break you down to a point that your self-esteem is a lot less than it was before you were in the relationship, and then slowly but surely it starts to increase. You know, first it's a grab on the wrist, after it was calling you names of all sorts, and then it goes to the pushing, then it might go shoving, and consistently you're talking yourself out of it, but at the same time they're giving you this hope. So you're talking about what's occurring.
Hope that what?
That the relationship will change. Because what's actually occurring is they're sorry for what they did. It won't happen again. They were just mad, angry.
Right. And then they were nice to you.
Oh, of course. Nice
Right.
to you. They nursed you back to health. The same person who hurt me is the same person who would bring me the ice pack. He's the same person who'd sit down and make me feel better. The gifts, the flowers, all of that occurs. And while that's happening, you're already at a point where you trust them to the depth that, and you love them. So they're convincing you that this will change, stand by my side, don't leave me. So you're also in a relationship where there is an emotional connection for you. And to walk away, I don't know that it's choice. I think that you're kind of in a position like you want the relationship to change, but at the same time you know what's going on isn't working, but you don't know how to fix it, and you don't know who to go to because of the shame that you feel in the relationship.
Did you ever go to the prosecutor's office? How'd you get away finally?
I actually decided one day, after several attempts of hurting me that day, it was probably 3 times, to the point that I knew that if I didn't get out, because he just kept getting more and more dangerous, I was more and more scared. I actually decided for myself, by going to some counseling prior to this, I actually started educating myself about what he was doing to me, and decided one day that this was it. If I didn't leave now, I wasn't going to leave before he would kill me.
What happened when you left?
I actually called my family, my dad.
What happened with him?
Oh, with him? He actually got 90 days in jail. I showed up at the courthouse.
Oh, you did? Good.
Yeah, he got almost 90 days in jail. My experience with the courts was bittersweet. The advocacy that Haven, the advocate that Haven brought in to work with me is how I was able to probably even have the strength to get up there and stand up against him in the courts. But he ended up getting a little bit of the jail time, like 83 days. He had to wear a tether that was connected to a pager that I wore.
Oh, okay. And is he out of your life now?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, is he out of the geographic area?
To my best knowledge, he moved out of the state. They let him go 9 months before his probation was up. They actually let him leave the state.
Did he go to anger management?
He was ordered to go to not anger management, but to the Havens program for batterers, and which quit reporting to his probation officer and never finished attending the classes out of state, which was what the judge had ordered.
I want to ask Judge Gorcyca, what's the difference between 90 days and 93 days?
3 days. I'm sorry, Henry. No, it's
You win.
domestic violence. It's a 93-day misdemeanor. It's state law.
And it goes on your record,
and it
doesn't
will go the first time if with the consent of the prosecutor and the consent after consultation with the victim, it can be under advisement. So if the batterer does everything right during the probationary period, then it would be off of the record. But that's only available for first-time misdemeanors. So it's not available for felonies, and it's not available for somebody that has an assault on their record.
Is it first time with that person or any person?
Any person. Any assaultive crime. If they have an assault on their record, they're not entitled to that.
Well, there must be a long list of habitual batterers somewhere. There must be. I mean, these guys don't go away and not batter again.
Well, I would say as a prosecutor, that's why I was a big fan of the Havens Batterer program. People that came out of that program successfully, we rarely, if ever, saw them again. And that's the whole goal, is so that victims are safe and that everybody's safe and that the defendants don't come back into the criminal justice system again.
So, Judy, you feel good now? You feel safe?
Definitely. I went through some of the free counseling through Haven, and then I since had gotten a counselor that I worked with for over a year and a half. And what I did is educated myself on domestic violence, and I got really involved. I've been given the opportunity with Haven to work with the Speakers Bureau group for survivors of domestic violence. So I do a lot of different speaking events. I get to educate.
That's great. When you were a child, was there any domestic violence in your family?
No. And I came from a family that was split up, but no, there was my parents and my dad, nobody ever touched me physically. So, I mean, I would say that possibly, it's a mindset why you may end up in a relationship like that.
Hang on for a second. I'm just getting a message to go to a break here, so we have to do this, and we'll be right back talking about domestic violence, of course.
Legal referrals and more information on this and other related topics are available on our website at www.dueprocess.tv. There you'll find information on today's program, helpful hints to legal issues, support materials, and lawyer referrals. You can also stream previous episodes of Due Process.
Thank you. We're back on Due Process talking to Judge Lisa Gorcyca and Beth Morrison. Julie Bingham, I want to thank you for being here today, telling us your story. It's a tough story to tell, and it's a tough thing to live through, but you did it.
Right.
And there is light at the end of that tunnel, isn't there?
For everyone.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've heard her story, and you must have heard these stories dozens of times at the prosecutor's office. I mean, on and on and on and on.
Thousands.
Beth, you live with this every day of your life. Mm-hmm. And, I just see your success at Haven, and the funding has to keep on going, but there is no end to this. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a solution for this kind of thing. Education could be, but what is the solution?
Well, I believe there is a solution, or maybe I would have given up on this line of work a long time ago.
Tell me what it is.
It's changing our society's belief system. It's challenging the social norm that violence is okay, that violence against women is acceptable, it's tolerated, that we all need to stand up and say, wait a minute here, this is not the life that we want to have for our children, our future grandchildren, and start to challenge the status quo, and start looking at policies, start looking at our school system, start looking at the entertainment industry, and just start looking at plain and simple how we treat women and how we treat girls in our society.
Well, when you talk about the entertainment industry, I mean, that's one that really puts it out there and sort of encourages people to do what you don't want done. I mean, I see a lot of it on TV.
They put it out there, but we buy it and we watch it.
You know, people have this prurient interest,
right.
and they watch it and they see it, and there are programs on that are so anti. I mean, they get the audience's attention by showing somebody molesting a woman.
Absolutely.
And it goes on and on and on. And I know that it's a long process that you two people are committed to. And Judge, I want to wish you good luck in your presumably new role, and are you going to deal with personal protection orders?
I will be, yes.
You will be?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a warning. That's a warning to any potential batterers. I want to thank you both for being here. I mean, it's something that we could talk about for hours and hours and hours, and I have a lot of questions that I still haven't been able to ask you. One was whether or not the children of batterers become batterers.
They do without intervention.
Yeah, unless there's intervention. So that's it. So thanks for coming over, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Here. I don't know whether to. I don't know whether to say. But I'd like to talk to you.
Major funding for Due Process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
Someday, cars will use infrared to monitor the driver's face and alert them when they're not paying attention to the road ahead. The first ever HS Hybrid from Lexus.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.